Imagine yourself in the middle of a heated argument. Words are spilling out faster than you can control, your tone is rising, and in the blink of an eye, you say something you shouldn't have. Regret kicks in immediately, but the damage is already done. Now, think about this. What if there was a simple trick to help you stay calm, no matter the situation? We live in a world where reacting quickly has become the norm. Social media rewards instant responses, traffic tests our patience daily, and in the workplace, a single misunderstood email can turn an entire day into an emotional battlefield. In the midst of this chaos, those who remain calm seem to have a superpower. But is it just luck? Or is there something more? Throughout history, some of the greatest minds have faced challenges that would make anyone lose control: wars, betrayals, financial ruin, and unbearable losses. Yet, among them, there was a select group that mastered a forgotten art: absolute self-control. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilled life wasn't about avoiding problems but about how we respond to them. And the best part? Their secret can be applied by anyone today. You don't need to retreat to a mountain or become a monk to develop this skill. There's a technique that can completely change how you deal with intense emotions and impulsive reactions, a simple trick that will ensure you never lose control of your emotions again. But before revealing this secret, we need to understand where it comes from and why it works so well. More than 2,000 years ago, a slave who would become one of the greatest philosophers in history taught a simple yet transformative lesson: do not suffer over things beyond your control. His name was Epictetus, and his life was proof that even in the worst circumstances, we still have power over something priceless: our mind. Stoicism was born in chaos. Created in ancient Greece and refined by the Romans, it was never meant to be an abstract philosophy for quiet discussions. On the contrary, it was developed for soldiers, politicians, and ordinary people facing the brutal realities of life. Its purpose? To create unshakable individuals. The Stoics believed that everything happening around us falls into two categories: what we can control and what we cannot. The weather, the economy, other people's opinions, all of these are beyond our reach. But our reactions, thoughts, and decisions? Those belong entirely to us. This simple idea, known as the dichotomy of control, is the key to true self-mastery. When we understand this distinction, something shifts within us. We stop wasting energy trying to change the unchangeable and start focusing on what truly matters: our attitude toward whatever life throws our way. And this is where the Stoic trick comes in, a technique that transforms this philosophy into something practical, something you can use immediately to strengthen your self-control. Imagine you're in the middle of a stressful situation. Someone insults you, traffic is unbearable, or you receive bad news. The heat of the moment takes over instantly, and your body reacts before you even have time to think. But what if there were a way to step outside of this emotional storm and see the situation from a distance, as if you weren't directly involved? The Stoics discovered this secret centuries ago. They called it cognitive distancing, and it is one of the most powerful techniques for mastering emotions. Instead of reacting impulsively, you mentally step back from the situation and observe it from an external perspective. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, practiced this constantly. He would imagine himself as an observer of his own life, as if watching a play where he was just one of the characters. This allowed him to see challenges and insults from a broader perspective, without being consumed by them. Epictetus taught his students to replace "this is happening to me" with "this is happening." It sounds simple, but this small shift in thinking creates a psychological distance between the event and your emotional response to it. This technique is a game changer. And once you start applying it, you'll realize that true power lies not in controlling the outside world but in mastering your own mind. Seneca suggested another trick: ask yourself how a wise person or a complete stranger would see the situation. Would what's bothering you right now still matter in a month? A year? When we step back from the heat of the moment, we realize that most things don't carry as much weight as we imagine. The truth is, our emotions aren't dictated by events themselves, but by the story we tell ourselves about them. And changing that story can change everything. Picture this: you're stuck in traffic, late for an important appointment. The clock keeps ticking mercilessly, and frustration builds. You can honk, curse, punch the steering wheel, but none of that will make the cars move any faster. What's outside your control cannot be changed. What's within your control, however, can. Your breathing, your thoughts, your choice to play calming music instead of fueling your frustration. The dichotomy of control isn't just some distant philosophical theory, it's a practical tool for daily life. At work, you can waste energy trying to change a difficult colleague, or you can focus on your own approach, becoming unshakable in the face of provocations. In relationships, you can suffer trying to force someone to change, or you can accept that the only thing truly within your control is your attitude, your communication, and your boundaries. Seneca used to say that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality. And much of that suffering comes from wanting the world to bend to our will. But there's immense power in realizing that we don't have to fight against what cannot be changed. When you grasp this, something almost magical happens. You reclaim your energy to focus on what truly matters. Instead of drowning in useless frustrations, you redirect your attention to what can actually transform your life. And that's where real change begins. Now, what if someone told you there's a way to train your mind, a method to strengthen self-control like a muscle? Would you believe it? The Stoics not only believed in it, but they also developed daily practices to build emotional resilience. These aren't abstract theories but simple, powerful exercises anyone can apply. The first is Stoic journaling. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal every day, not for others, but for himself. He reviewed his actions, reflected on his emotions, and reaffirmed the principles he wanted to follow. Writing down your thoughts helps you organize them, challenge irrational beliefs, and recognize emotional patterns with clarity. Another exercise is negative visualization. It may sound strange at first, but it serves a powerful purpose, preparing the mind for the unexpected. The Stoics advised imagining difficult scenarios before they happened. How would you react if you lost something important? If you were treated unfairly? If you faced financial struggles? By visualizing these situations rationally, you create emotional distance and become better prepared to handle them if they ever occur. Then, there's Stoic meditation. Unlike traditional meditation, it's not about emptying the mind but about directing it. At the end of the day, reflect on your actions. Did you respond the way you wanted to? Were you guided by reason or by emotion? This simple habit strengthens your ability to respond consciously, making you more aware of your choices. The Stoics knew that the mind requires constant training. If you want mastery over your emotions, you can't just expect it to happen on its own. You have to practice. Someone offends you. You feel your blood boil, the urge to snap back, to defend yourself, to fight back. Your heart races, adrenaline takes over. And before you even realize it, you've already reacted, perhaps saying or doing something that only made the situation worse. That's how most people live, enslaved by impulse. The emotion arises, and instead of controlling it, they get swept away by it. But there's another way, a path the Stoics mastered, transforming emotion into reflection, impulse into choice. The first step? Recognize what's happening inside you. When you feel a strong emotion rising, pause for a moment. Just observe it. The Stoics called this emotional dissociation, realizing that you are not your emotion, but rather the one who observes it. The second step? Slow down. Marcus Aurelius advised delaying your response. If someone irritates you, don't react in the heat of the moment. Breathe, count to 10, step away for a moment. Time creates space between stimulus and reaction, and in that space, you regain control. The third step is to ask yourself, does this really matter? Too often, we get caught up in small frustrations that, from a distance, have no real significance. Epictetus suggested that before reacting, we should imagine whether this issue would still matter a year from now. When you master these techniques, something changes. Emotions no longer control you, instead, they become signals. And in the end, you decide how to act. In 1967, Commander James Stockdale was flying his jet over Vietnam when he was shot down and captured. For the next 7 years, he endured brutal torture and complete isolation as a prisoner of war. Under such conditions, most people would break. But Stockdale survived. More than that, he helped other prisoners endure the living hell around them. And how did he do it? By applying Stoic principles. Before the war, Stockdale had studied Epictetus. When he was captured, he remembered one essential lesson: it is not things that disturb us, but our opinion of them. He knew he couldn't control his imprisonment or his captors. But he could control his mind. He refused to see himself as a victim, refused to give in to despair. Instead, he focused on what he could do, strengthening his spirit, protecting his fellow prisoners, and maintaining his dignity. And Stoicism isn't just useful in war, it's a powerful tool in everyday life. In business, Tim Ferriss, best-selling author and investor, applies Stoic principles to make high-pressure decisions. He practices negative visualization, mentally preparing for worst-case scenarios before they happen, so he's ready if they do. In sports, legends like Tom Brady and Michael Jordan learned to stay unfazed by trash talk, mistakes, or losses. If they missed a crucial shot or lost a game, they didn't let emotions consume them. They focused on what they could control: the next play, the next move, the next opportunity. True strength isn't about avoiding challenges, it's about staying calm in the middle of the storm. And this strength can be trained. Pain comes for everyone. Loss, failure, disappointment, no one escapes. Suffering isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And in the face of this, we have only two choices: resist and suffer even more, or accept and grow. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't try to avoid pain or rebel against life's hardships. Instead, they accepted suffering as part of the path. Not because they enjoyed it, but because they knew that resisting the inevitable only creates more anguish. Epictetus was born into slavery. His master broke his leg, leaving him permanently disabled. He could have been consumed by rage and bitterness. But he chose a different path. He accepted what he couldn't change and focused on what was still his mind, his principles, and his ability to find meaning even in adversity. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor of Rome, watched his empire suffer through a devastating plague. He saw sickness and death all around him. He suffered, too. But he reminded himself, what happens to us was already destined to happen. The only choice we have is how we respond. Stoicism teaches that suffering is not the enemy. It is a teacher. And every pain carries a lesson, if we have the courage to listen. Imagine you're in the middle of a heated argument. Someone falsely accuses you, and everything inside you wants to retaliate. Your heart pounds, your voice rises, your hands shake. But then, something shifts. Instead of being swept away, you pause. A second of silence. And in that instant, you become an observer of the situation, not a prisoner of it. That is the Stoic trick in action. Cognitive distancing gives you the space to see reality without being consumed by emotion. The problem is still there, but now you control how you respond. In traffic, someone cuts you off. Your instinct is to yell, honk, get angry. But then you ask yourself, will this still matter tomorrow? Your focus shifts. You realize that what's truly under your control isn't traffic, it's your reaction to it. At work, you receive harsh criticism. Your first instinct is to defend yourself or take it personally. But instead, you pause. You examine the criticism without absorbing it right away. You ask yourself, is this useful? If yes, you learn from it. If no, you let it go. How do you train this? Every day, choose a small discomfort, a delay, a frustration, an irritation, and observe it from the outside, as if you were watching a movie. Little by little, this ability strengthens. And one day, when you truly need it, it will already be there, ready to protect you from yourself. Reading about Stoicism isn't enough. Knowing how to control your emotions won't help if, in the heat of the moment, you forget everything and get carried away. A true Stoic isn't someone who knows the theory, but someone who lives the philosophy, day after day. Imagine a warrior sharpening his sword. He doesn't wait for battle to do it. Every single day, he keeps it sharp because he knows that when the fight comes, there won't be time to prepare. Your mind is the sword. The Stoics practiced their ideas relentlessly, turning them into unshakable habits. Marcus Aurelius wrote down his reflections daily, reinforcing his mental discipline. Epictetus taught that every small irritation in daily life is an opportunity for training. Applying this in modern life. Small daily challenges make all the difference. When you wake up, ask yourself, what is within my control today? During the day, when facing difficulties, take a deep breath and practice detachment. At night, reflect, was I guided by reason or impulse? Repetition is the key. Every time you choose calm over anger, focus over distraction, what once required effort becomes natural. And when life truly tests you, because you will be ready. A challenge for you. Do you think you have control over your emotions? Let's test that. Try going one full day applying the Stoic mindset. From the moment you wake up, pay attention to every situation that would normally trigger an impulsive reaction. Someone cuts you off in traffic? Someone makes a rude comment? An unexpected problem ruins your plans? Before reacting, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this under my control? If it isn't, accept it. If it is, respond as rationally as possible. Observe how your mind struggles against this new habit. Feel the urge to snap back, get frustrated, or stress out. But instead, practice detachment. Imagine you're watching the situation as a spectator. How would a wise person act in this moment? At the end of the day, reflect. In which moments did you succeed in staying in control? Where did you slip? How did it feel to choose calm over reactivity? The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to start building a new way of handling the world. Are you up for the challenge? The world will keep testing you. Traffic jams, tight deadlines, difficult people, you can't avoid them. But one choice will always be yours, how you respond to it all. You've learned that you can't control events, but you can control your mind. That impulses can be slowed down. That a single moment of pause can turn a rash reaction into a rational response. The Stoics didn't see calmness as an unreachable ideal, they cultivated it every single day through practice and intention. And now, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? True self-control isn't a trick you use once and forget. It's a practice, a path, a commitment to a more peaceful life. As Marcus Aurelius said, if you are troubled by something external, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment of it. And this judgment is in your power. So, how do you choose to live from now on? Share your thoughts in the comments. When was the last time you managed to hold back before reacting? And when did you realize you could have handled something differently? Let's keep this conversation going.